Good morning. This is Mona, and this is my morning view. Today, Fall Edition 2025. It is like October 3rd. No, November 3rd. Time is flying. November 3rd. And it is Memory Monday. Memory Monday. So, I have a thought in my head. It's probably more of a feisty Friday moment. I don't know if this is going to be the Memory Monday, but it's something that I remember. So here it is. I have never remembered the government actually shutting down. Like, for the budget. So there's been times when, the state closes things because, we had our state parks closed for quite a while. And so there's those things. But the federal government, and of course, I start this and the truck starts. It's been quiet the whole morning I've been out here. Okay. So hopefully it won't get too loud. So anyways, I've never really known the government to actually shut down because of the budget. There would be times that we were like wringing our hands, when we were in the military going, are we going to get paid? And we'd get a little nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. We would get a little nervous sometimes. And so like last minute, they would, do something or have an extension or pass it somehow. I don't know. I didn't get into the nitty gritty. All I was worried about was, were we going to get paid? And so that is my memory. My memory is that we always ended up getting paid. We always did. And this year, they have not taken care of the budget. And so there are people not getting paid. Military has missed a paycheck, at least one, if not two now. Air traffic controllers. Anything that is a federal job, pretty much. Your taxes, your IRS workers. Now, mind you, listen. Air traffic control is a stressful job. Massively stressful job. Especially if it's in the bigger cities. Places like New York City. And the surrounding, like Newark in New Jersey. That's still kind of considered the New York area of airports. Because there's a lot of traffic that comes around through that little radius. Diameter, circumference, whatever you want to call it. So there's a lot of traffic. Atlanta has a lot of traffic. That's where people get off their plane going to one destination and get on a new one to get to where they're going. So it's some kind of a hub. I'm trying to think of the name of that, where it's that transition space. I'm pretty sure when we die, we have to go through Atlanta to get to our final destination. Just a thought. So then, you've got probably Dallas. Dallas is a pretty big airport. Chicago, LAX. Some pretty significant, large international airports. And here we are with a high-stress job, and to boot, they're not getting paid. Wow. Now, in the meantime, while they're still doing their job and not getting paid, the politicians are not doing their job and getting paid. So I would like to send out a proposal. If the budget isn't passed, and therefore federal employees do not get paid, that the first ones to lose their paycheck should be politicians. And then they should be the last ones to get paid when it comes to when they start paying people back. Yeah. So people have late bills, they have mortgages, they have all these things that they have to pay for. Food! They have to pay for food. So I found out that food stamps were not being funded right now because of the budget not being passed. So it's not, I've heard people blaming Trump, blaming the Republicans. We're not going to get into the blame game other than the politicians that are not doing their job and balancing the budget and doing what they need to do to get the budget passed is the reason why this stopped. And I'm really thinking that, you know, as far as I'm concerned, as an American, I care about children and elderly. They are the two that cannot take care of themselves. To a certain extent. And if you neglect children and the elderly, or the disabled, because they kind of fall in that elderly group even though they may be young, you're not worth the money that you print on. You're not. We have failed as a nation. Our veterans go homeless. Our elderly lose everything they have for subservient medical. And now there's going to be a lot of children that don't get fed. If they're in school, they'll get fed lunch. They'll get fed lunch at school. As long as the parents were I would think that if they have food stamps that they would be humble enough to get free lunch as well. There's a lot of people that are not humble enough to apply for free lunch, and so therefore their child starves because of their pride. I remember when I was a kid, my mother told my father she was sick and tired of his pride while her children went hungry. And so she was going to go get food stamps. And so we had food stamps for a while. I'm not anti-food stamps. I'm not. And I know the abuse that takes place. I've seen the abuse that takes place. Growing up, I know people that traded their food stamps for alcohol and their food stamps for drugs, and their children ate crackers, because stale crackers that were in their house. Okay? So I understand that abuse. I understand how they can get around, because anything can be gotten around somehow for something. So with that, I understand that. But we shouldn't let children suffer. So that's where I'm at with this. My memory is that we never actually shut down. My memory is that somehow, some way, they got it passed and went forward. Now, mind you, a lot of times what they did is just put themselves more in debt. So they took the easy way out instead of actually budgeting, that, you know, making the budget. No. They just piled debt on top of us because they're not the ones paying it back. Our children children's children's children. This is going to take forever, if not other than a miracle. But why should God perform a miracle when we don't acknowledge him as a nation? When we don't humble ourselves and pray. Humble. If my children, my people, will humble themselves. We're not talking about the entire nation has to do it. No. Only the ones that are called of God. Only those that follow God. Only those that are part of his family. That means people that don't believe in Jesus don't have to humble themselves and pray. Because chances are, if they humble themselves and pray, well, they'll be part of the family. So, that was pretty yucky. Then he'll heal our land. But in the meantime, while we're still waiting for everybody to humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, those that are Christ followers, those that are people that follow God, I don't care what denomination you are. If you read the Old Testament, that's where you will find that verse in Chronicles. How do we get, when the lawmakers are the ones that are creating problems, how do we get a law passed that the politicians do not get paid if the budget is not done? How do we do that? How do we go around that? How do we get past them voting things for themselves for profit? Because, they have benefits for the rest of their life. The military. The military does not have benefits for the rest of their life. When we joined the military, if you retired, you had benefits, health benefits for the rest of your life. But that no longer exists. That no longer exists. You have to actually pay for insurance. It's cheaper insurance than, the average insurance. But when you become a fixed income, it's quite a lot. It's a big chunk out of your fixed income. And in today's era, most people still, when they're elderly and they don't have, they can't work anymore, they still kind of have a mortgage because the refinancing of things to survive or to fix things or whatever it was. Maybe it was bad decisions on because we're products of our environment. The United States is in debt, and its people are in debt. It's certainly not a Solomon regime. It's not, when Solomon was king, I know the no kings thing, that's, please, grow up. Yeah, that's a Feisty Friday moment. But when Solomon was king, his nation wasn't in debt. They had surplus. They had so much that he gave the Queen of Sheba, he gave her way more than she gave him because he is the better king. Because the better king always gives the greater gift. Therefore, when you give your life to God, he gives you the better gift because he's the better king. When Solomon was king, nobody was in debt. They had so much silver that when they didn't have use for whatever it was, they put it on the curb for garbage because they had more than enough. Even the servants wore fine clothing. They did really well. And you want to know why they did well? Because Solomon, as the leader, asked for wisdom to rule the nation. Not, I'm going to do it my way because I think my way is best. Both parties guilty. I know this sounds like a feisty Friday, but, this is current events. This is stuff that's going on, right now. And we're like, how do we solve this? And I'm thinking that the way to solve it is stop their paycheck. Stop their paycheck until they solve it. And if they still haven't solved it by the time election day, tomorrow, you're not doing anything to solve this? We'll solve it for you. You're out of a job. Oh, and by the way, we're going to stop your benefits because you no longer work there. Just like they're doing with retirees from the military. You want benefits, you pay for them, like everybody else in the nation. How about you work for a living? Oh, that's a keen idea. Since you don't actually work half the time, you're not even in session when there's session. If people wanted to, they could actually look up the statistics of what you vote for, how often you vote, whether you're there, whether you do some kind of like absentee type voting, just to see whether you actually are doing anything at all. Because most politicians have people that work for them. And to some extent, they have interns. I don't know how much interns get paid, but I bet they don't get paid what an employee gets paid. So exactly how much work is your politician doing for you? Is he really fighting for you? Is he really serving you? And don't look at the commercials, because they're all hype. Don't look at the little check marks of, oh, they do this and do that and do this and do that. No, they don't. That's all to get your vote. Tomorrow's voting. It's kind of why I'm doing this now, because I just happen to remember in my memory that we've never actually shut down and not paid people that are working. While they still get paid. Somebody please help me figure out how we can put in a bill that will actually be passed, that will get these freeloaders off of our paychecks. They're stealing from the American people. They're stealing. They pass laws to benefit themselves. And there needs to be an accountability for that. There needs to be no lifetime benefit stuff. If you're not there, you don't, and even, wow. Do aircraft traffic controllers get free benefits? Or do they have to pay for insurance? That's a thought. I know active duty military, or at least it once was, active duty military did get free free medical. They have to keep their military people, strong and healthy. I don't know if that's still the case. It's been a while since I've talked to an active duty member to find out exactly what they get and what they don't get. Yeah. Some active duty military probably may be struggling right now, because when we were in the military, we lived off post. And since we did not live in post housing, we paid for either rent or a mortgage, depending on where it was that we were living. Now, when you pay rent or a mortgage, you get this thing called COLA. It's to offset the cost of living in the area. So depending on where you live, depends on how much money you get. But it never paid fully for your rent. It never paid fully for your mortgage. It never paid as much as you were spending for that. And then you had, of course, electricity and water and garbage. So you still paid for all of that as well. Well above the COLA. And if you lived on post, you didn't get COLA. You didn't have to have a mortgage. You didn't have to pay for water. You didn't have to pay for electricity. You didn't have to pay for garbage. But you didn't get COLA. Wait for the plane to go by. There, you see it. You see the plane? There's a plane. So if you had, say, an E5, that would be a sergeant. Okay, a sergeant, normally, most sergeants have been in for over 10 years. There were, some sergeants, depending on their MOS, they could get ranked faster. But for the most part, it was like over 10 years. Don't know if that's still the case today. But that's how it was. So, say you're a sergeant, you're getting sergeant's pay. You live out of town, off base, so you're paying for your mortgage or your rent, your electricity, your cable. Not cable. I don't know if they got cable for free on post or not. I don't know. Because I never lived on post. Well, I did when we lived in Fort Bragg. So, yeah, we did live on post for a little bit, and then we got out of the military. So I don't remember that. It was probably, you probably paid for that. But electricity, water, garbage, that stuff was paid for. Your paycheck would be what a sergeant's paycheck was, right? And with a sergeant's paycheck, with, say, 2 children, you qualified for food stamps. You did. You qualified, this is after 10 years, you qualified for free lunch if you lived on post at a sergeant's pay. Mind you, you weren't paying for, your mortgage, your rent, your electricity. If you lived off post with a sergeant's pay, you got COLA, which did not even cover your rent or your mortgage, not counting your electricity and your water and your garbage. And you did not qualify by $4. $4. You did not get free lunch. You did not get food stamps. But you were paying out of pocket way more than the ones that were getting food stamps. So those people that qualify for food stamps because they're not sergeants, that live out in town, that do not live on base, and they're not getting paid, And they have a mortgage, and they have rent, and they have electricity, and they have food stamps. If they weren't getting paid, then okay, maybe they can hold off a little while as the debt piles up from not paying the bills. But at least they would have food stamps to eat, to feed their kids. Nothing. Nothing, and they still serve their country. Nothing, and they still get up for work every day. Nothing. Why? Because they signed the dotted line that said they would do this for their country. And as a nation, we fail our military, we fail our veterans, we fail our elderly, we fail our children. Because we are products of our environment that does things our way and does not seek wisdom from God. And they put the nation into debt because they don't want to do their job. And yet they reap all the benefits. How do we take care of that? I don't like doing this on Memory Monday. But tomorrow's election day. So it just needed to be said. All right, blessings, everybody. Have a great day. I will see you tomorrow for Tips Tuesday. And have a great day. Go over to YouTube, Mona E. Harrison, different than my Facebook profile, Mona E. Harrison, and hit subscribe. And when you hit subscribe, go back and watch some of the other videos that I've done. And in the meantime, this video will be uploaded tonight or tomorrow onto YouTube. So if you're watching it on YouTube, you don't have to worry about that. You can end it now. All right, bye. Blessings. Have a great day. I will see you tomorrow.